We are oppressed. We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights.
One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.
And always feel that your life has ultimate significance.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Civil Action. This is Todd Hollis from Todd J Law. Today I have a very, very special guest. His name is Philip Hayden. He's a 26-year veteran of the FBI, and he also has a very particular mindset, on the culture of the blue wall and some other great things. He also is an expert witness when it comes to testifying either for or against police officers when it relates to excessive force and a whole bunch of other accolades. But I won't speak for him. I'll let him speak for himself. Mr. Hayden, welcome to Civil Action. I am honored to have you here as a guest. How are you?
It's my pleasure to be here. I'm fine.
Well, I want to get right into it. We have so much to talk about in so little time. So first, why don't you introduce yourself to my guests? Tell us who you are, what you do, and all the many accolades that I see on your curriculum vitae.
Okay, just very quickly about myself without going on and on. I'm 26-year veteran of the FBI as an agent with the FBI, and then as a supervisory agent with the FBI. And prior to that, I worked in Chicago and I worked in New York. And then I came to Quantico and spent my time there at Quantico. It was a unit called the SOARS Unit, Special Operations and Research, which was a SWAT personnel within the FBI. And then I was asked to take over a program at the FBI Academy for new agents and training new agents on how to deal with situations and problems that they run across and do it in a safe manner that they would not be injured doing what they do. So, so that was my background with them. During that time, that last minute, and this is important because this kind of tells you where I come from, is that I developed this program called the Law Enforcement Training for Safety and Survival. That was the LETS program.
Right.
And that LETS program was for violent crimes task forces throughout the United States. Now, the violent crimes task forces was composed of federal agents, local police, county police, city police, from all over the United States. And there was about 1,600 of these individuals, FBI agents, DEA agents, ATF agents, customs, a lot of federal people. And then we had the police. And in that, we found out that we had to have a better communication between all the police and the FBI and other government agencies on how we communicate with each other. And also, what is the program that each department has and why do they have the programs that they have? How do they deal with their police officers in matters that we as federal agents really weren't used to? So we did a lot of work on that, and that's when I got my doctorate in education, dealing with how can I train people to do a job in a better way and do it in a way that's conducive to safety and survival.
Sure. So 26 years with the FBI, I mean, obviously there's a lot of, good and bad things that I'm sure that you've seen. I've been a defense attorney for almost 27 years. And, in that time, we met a lot of clients who would tell us that, they had interactions with police officers. And most times they said that those police officers were, either overly aggressive with them or they did something that, they felt that was violative of their civil rights. But when I first started, there wasn't a whole lot of social media. Many times we had to rely, just on what a police officer told us. And if we didn't have any information to contradict what that police report said, oftentimes we were left having, to almost dismiss, what our clients were telling us, with a grain of salt, of course. But, now in this new, electronic, media age, I mean, we don't really have to ask a police officer a whole lot. We can see it. But, even still, there seems to be a great divide, between the culture, of police officers and, the culture that, most lay American citizens have to live in. So you wrote this great article, and it's kind of how it led me to you, where you talk about, the Great Wall of Silence. And you said that at one point you were a brick in that wall. Again, why don't we get into that? You tell me what inspired the article and what your position is on it.
Okay, I think it'd be fair for you and your listeners. Let's go back a little bit and let's talk about the blue wall, the thin wall of silence that police departments seem that they have.
Okay.
And why that is there. Now,
right.
When we're talking about police departments, you can be talking about a 5-person department or a 35,000 department. And every one of those departments, it's a team concept in police work, like you would have in the military. You have teams in the military that work together. And it's the same thing in law enforcement. You might have a small group of 5 people. You might have a group of 20, 30 people on a squad that all work together. And when that happens, you just have to imagine. And let's take a case here. Let's take an administrative problem. We have a police officer that violates their administrative problems they have. That, for instance, let's just say that the department says you cannot take any gratuities from anybody outside, from restaurants or anything else. But yet a police officer goes into a coffee shop and the people there say, hey, coffee's on us. Thank you for your service. So the police officer takes it. Now the rookie that's with him, he's looking at this thing saying, wait a minute, we're told we can't take anything. So now he goes to the department, to his supervisor and says, hey, Officer so-and-so, a 10-year, 20-year veteran, whatever it is, took a cup of coffee. Well, the supervisor might say to him, hey, don't take the cup of coffee anymore. Don't do that. But yet what happens? This individual that said something, he's now known as a person you can't trust. And it's just the way it kind of works out there. So the police officer has to look at this thing and say, okay, when do I say something? When don't I say something? And so when we look at this thing, we want to make sure that everybody is treated fairly. Now, we are a society of secrets. When you look at this,
yes, we are.
If you have let's take you as an attorney. You as an attorney are told by your client certain things. Now, if you went and told other people that, you're breaking your oath, and you're protected by the law that you don't have to say anything that this client told you.
But not to cut you off, but there's a distinct difference between.
Yes, there is.
I'm going to get legally. To that. Okay, all right.
And I'm going to get to that. But this is the point I'm trying to make. We are a society of secrets. You got a priest, a rabbi, a preacher, whatever it is, the same thing. He's protected by law many times by not saying anything. A journalist is protected. So we are a society of secrets. We don't tell on our secrets. Now, this is what a police officer, he's facing a situation where he's not a priest, he's not a journalist, he's not an attorney, he's an agent, he's a police officer, and he has an obligation to the general public to be honest, to be fair, to be straightforward. And yet, in this administrative thing, he turns somebody in, he's kind of blackballed, and he knows that. So where does he finally get to the point where saying, hey, I'm not going to look the other way. Something is wrong here and I don't like it. Now, there have been departments all across the country have had major investigations to where they've done something and they've been prosecuted. And they've gone to jail, been fired, whatever it might be. And there are those cases. But there's many times when nothing is said because you don't want to cross that thin blue line because it's going to mess up the team concept. And that's the theory behind why nobody really wants to cross that that blue line. Is it because they're going to be blackballed, or is it because it's a dishonorable organization? And I don't think that's the case. I think it's just that the case that, hey, I want to work within this organization and I don't want to be known as the person that's telling on everybody. So, that's the problem that we have there. Now, you'd mentioned you started to say something about attorneys. It's different. So I don't know if that explained it or not.
Well, it does, but it doesn't. All right. So, the privilege that exists between an attorney and a client, is one that's created by Constitution.
Right.
But,
absolutely.
the relationship
you're protected by law.
Right. But the relationship that a police officer has to a given situation, again, is to the Constitution. It's to the duty to uphold the law. And, at a given situation, when a situation first, kind of creates itself, the only witnesses to that situation most often are police officers. Mm-hmm. So if John Doe police officer watches Jane Doe police officer commit a crime, but he doesn't say anything, who is going to, basically enforce the law if the police are unwilling to do it because they believe that it's going to potentially endanger a colleague?
And Todd, I agree with you 100%. And you mentioned that one word, criminal, right there. When there's a criminal violation, I think, and this is my personal belief, I think most police officers would say, we're not going to cross that. But then there's that question, where does the lines go from administrative to criminal to did they do something wrong? Do I want to be known as the person that can't be trusted? And can I work in the department? There's a lot of questions I have to answer. And I'm not at all saying that if a criminal deed is done, that a police officer should not be charged with that. I believe that they should be. But
I get that.
When do you get to that point? What do you say? How do you do it?
Well, you are an exception, obviously. And I'm sure that there are a lot of other, police officers who also, maintain your sense of duty and your sense of honor as it relates to the law, regardless of how that, where the truth lies, whether it's for or against a police officer. You wrote this great article, and I want to make sure that I titled it correctly, just in case our listeners want to go to it. It's why an ex-FBI agent decided to break through the blue wall of silence. And you wrote that, with the USA Today, and you talked about some of the very issues that we're discussing, here today. So I want to ask you what inspired that article. And I also want to talk to you about, a young man that, I believe you testified, on behalf of his family during a criminal investigation that involved a police officer that got shot and killed him. That, of course, is Jordan Edwards. So let's talk about the article, and then we can talk more about the Edwards case.
We have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough, and it is because of our effort